Monday. Welcome to another episode of Be the Light with me, Sarah G. Today I am sitting down with one of my awesome friends and another member of the North Star Squad. You guys are lucky enough to meet Johnny Demer, who we called, we nickname him affectionately by his last name, just the way we introduced you to Ryan Mace last week. This is Johnny Demer, but you're going to hear me refer to him as Demer.
Just Demer, yeah.
Does your family call you Johnny back home, or does everybody?
Well, it'd be kind of bizarre if my family called me that.
That's true.
So yeah, I go by Johnny. My older brother calls me Jay, and then we're from Jupiter, Florida, which is J-Town. It's kind of so I'm also, now that we moved out of our hometown, I'm J-Town.
Really?
Kind of like an homage to the hometown.
Oh, that's cool.
My dad just calls me a mistake.
That's funny. Well, I hope that you guys are ready. We're off to a great start. This is Johnny Demer. I love that I have Johnny on the show today because over the weekend, or over the last few weeks, actually, Johnny, I mentioned you in a couple of videos back when I think it was not last Monday, but the Monday before, we had gone out to dinner. I don't know if y'all remember this, but I spoke a little bit about someone who I was really, I guess, touched by our conversation at Lazy Dog a few weekends ago when you were like, what book are you reading? And I was, I was telling them, I'm like, no one ever asked me what book I'm reading. Like, that was one of my favorite questions. I was like, thank you, Johnny, or thank you, Demer, because like that to me, I was like, people ask you how your day was, you know, whatever, like really casual conversation. But I really love the interest that you took in, like, hey, like, what book are you reading? And I'm like, oh my God, I get to share this. And I was so excited. And
well, yeah, first of all, you have to ask someone that you're fairly certain they're reading a book, because it's almost like you wouldn't ask someone if they're pregnant unless you're absolutely sure they're pregnant. Because it can turn out badly. If you ask someone who probably isn't reading a book what they're reading, they'd be like, nothing at the moment.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like Sarah's the kind of person who's always got something, you know, cracking. And, you know, it's like, and when you told me Feeling Good and then something else. And
at that time I was reading Feeling Good and Compete Every Day, which I finished, by the way, y'all. I moved on. But always reading, love to read. I know you love to read too, and we're going to talk about that a little bit here.
For sure.
Yeah. But so Demer, I think I explained a little bit earlier, so Mondays are one of my favorite days because on Mondays I set my intentions for the week. And this week, and just looking back on, you know, conversations that we've had lately, today Demer is going to help me talk about just the feeling of fulfillment. There's a lot of things that he does in his everyday life, like outside of North Star, that he lives life with such adventure and this willingness, this open mind, this willingness to learn. I feel like you're always just seeking to learn, really, and I love that about you. Everywhere you go, there's so many cool stories that you have. So I wanted to start with that because, like I said, I love that about you, your personality. Like you just, I really feel like you're just almost like everything that he does, he just puts his whole heart into, and you can definitely tell that when you're speaking to him. So Demer, tell us a little bit about, like, let's start off with, before we get into the adventure, the reason that you're able to take all these adventures and experience so much in life is because of the job lately that you've been doing. And so tell us a little bit about that, because you weren't expecting to come to North Star this summer.
No, this is my third summer with North Star, which, I mean, everyone who's probably watching knows exactly what North Star is.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a crazy summer sales job. You work a ton of hours. You guys probably know. I'll start with why I would even have wanted to do a bunch of travel. I grew up pretty poor. I didn't have a lot of money. Never, my best vacation was going to see my grandma in rural Illinois in the outskirts of Springfield, which is the capital, and the biggest claim to fame is Abe Lincoln was from there 160 years ago, which is pretty cool, but you know, he left the first chance he got to go to the White House, so it's not anything crazy. And then my parents were divorced. My mom started dating this doctor who was legitimately addicted to travel. He's an awesome guy. You'll never meet anyone like him. His name's Todd. He's in a different country every single weekend. He has no retirement. Even though he makes a couple $100,000 a year.
That's nice.
He's got millions of miles, and he took me to a few crazy places. He's taken me Tunisia, Africa, El Salvador, Iceland.
So you started traveling way before you actually started traveling. I thought wow, okay.
So I got a propensity, I got a wanderlust, and then it was I had been to all these bizarre places where I would say entry level travel, if you were really gonna go to your first few spots that you would pay for, it would probably be I want to go to London, I want to go to Paris, I want to go to the classic touristy spots, and that wasn't my route at all. And so I haven't even been to a lot of the classic spots. I've never been to Germany, never been to Paris, but I've been to all these wild places. And then North Star came along. I actually did a job in financial services after my sophomore year in college. It was like an internship. I had no business landing. It was like 1 out of 100. I was the youngest guy. They offered it to me, and I hated it. You know, everyone there was kind of all about the wrong thing. I actually, from that job, did a bunch of research into like the science of like happiness, depression, anxiety, what makes people happy in the world. I like read a bunch of Stoic philosophy, wrote a 30-page like research paper.
Your life is like Eat, Pray, Love. I love it. I had no idea. Wow. We gotta watch it, but keep going. Sorry.
We'll watch Eat, Pray, Love. But I kind of like put together this just research paper all along like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in with research on like what income level makes people the most happy, and there were some good research points in there. And so I came back to college after that, kind of like totally shook up. I was like, all these 45-year-olds making $200,000 a year. It was like the gold standard of what I thought life was if you were successful. They weren't happy. They were out of shape. Their marriages were falling apart. And I was like, that's not going to be for me, man. Like, what is that? Mm-hmm. And so then North Star was like my good friend from college, JP Burke, was, and your name's in the bowl right now. And I was like, I got to try this because it seems like it could be a cool path to travel. And, a couple of years in now, met some awesome people who I've backpacked like Vietnam, Thailand, spent like 3 months in one trip in Asia, planning another one to the Middle East and Eastern Europe to see some cool spots. And it should be awesome, and it's been a blessing. But who really knows what's gonna come next?
Mm-hmm. That is super cool. I had no idea. So you okay? So yeah, we definitely gotta watch Eat, Pray, Love. You're really gonna like it.
Cool.
But I didn't know that you've been traveling. You've already like been traveling way before like North Star. Gave you all this time off to travel, essentially.
Yeah, I would say it was more like I did North Star because I saw it as a good way to continue traveling rather than like, I've never been anywhere, I want to do that finally. And so it's been perfect.
And when you go out, so like I was saying, what I can at least, I'm assuming, is when you go out there, you're looking, to obviously learn something from these different cultures and experience these new things.
For sure.
What would you say like your top 3 places that you've been are, and like what was it about the culture, the people that you loved and so like you love so much?
So I'll say the biggest difference, like the reason I wanted to do a 3-month expanded trip with my buddies, I keep glancing over there because one of them's sitting over there off screen, but the big thing was when I would go with this doctor, he would take me to like places like Tunisia, Iceland, all these really exotic places. We'd grab a hotel in the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton, stay for 3 days, do a couple excursions, and we'd bounce. And it was cool to see the scenery, but it was like, every time it was like a shame to it, almost like we are not getting involved at all in the culture. And like, so when I planned this big trip, I was like, that's the number one thing I'm going to want to do. Mm-hmm. And so when a few of us went to Vietnam, and by the way, traveling is a whole lot more affordable than a lot of people realize it is. My budget, I didn't sign a lease back home. I was technically homeless for a few months, but I was over in Asia. So my entire budget for a whole month, minus the flight, obviously, would be like $1,500 for a month in Thailand or Vietnam. And that's food, excursions, housing for the nights, everything like that. And, some of the time you had to be pretty creative with your budget. Like one time in Thailand, I was running low on what I had budgeted out for the next couple weeks. So I just Googled free monasteries to stay at. And I ended up finding this, Bill Gates had stayed in this monastery up in the mountains of northern Thailand along the Burmese border. You didn't need a reservation, anything like that. It was totally donation funded.
Wow.
So I took this bus only with Thai locals, like this little rickety yellow bus. It was not a charter bus or anything like that. And we went up through the mountains, and I'm the only white dude. I'm reading The Alchemist, a little paperback I had bought. And there's like Thai villagers like transporting potatoes from one village to the next, hopping on and off this bus. It was
so neat.
It was cool. And then I just showed up. They dropped me off in the forest alone at this monastery, and I walked up, looked around for wherever the monks were. So I finally found a monk, and I was like, I'm here to stay. And he goes,
needs to follow him with a camera. This is like a movie.
It was cool. I don't know how to use a GoPro, so I don't know. And then he was just like, yeah, sure. He threw me some white robes, and I was there, and like I slept on the floor for like 4 days, and just they would feed you twice a day vegan food. You got to wake up at 5:30, meditate all day. There's a Q&A with the monks, and it was sweet. And then we just like you're kind of there, and it was. So I mean, these are the ways that like I really wanted to travel and experience culture rather than just be in a place to say I had been there and post a couple pics up on Facebook.
Yeah.
I never even posted on Insta or like any kind of social media about that monastery thing because it was just like I think that there's an important thing to almost intentionally not document some things publicly so that you can have it be a totally internal experience.
Yeah.
And if you're going to tell people that, hey, this is a spiritual experience, the reason I had gone up to this monastery, then I think there's a detraction if you try to go brag about it on social media. And so, it's cool that there are certain things that only get to come out in conversation like this.
So I love that about you. So you're going to these places and you're literally like, you're wanting to be one with the people, like you're doing everything that you can to really just soak in the full experience of what it's like to be out there. Like the type of, I guess, you need courage for sure to do that, because you, like you said, you're on a bus, you know, courage, not so much, okay, maybe not courage, but yes, courage, but more of just this willingness. It goes back to that willingness that you have of just like, you know, of adventure, and just, you know, obviously you have this some type of like trust where you're able to you know, just jump on a bus with people that you don't know. You don't necessarily even speak their language, but you're like, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna, you know, I looked it up, I know where I'm going, you know, it's gonna be like, I don't know these people, but they're gonna take care of me, I'm gonna be fed, I'm gonna have everything that I need. Like, wow.
One of the, I mean, you're totally right.
Like for some people that might be a little scary, you know, like, oh shoot, what am I getting myself into? But you're not overthinking it. You're just going because it feels good. And I think the biggest thing is like when your curiosity outweighs your fear, like it's not that there's no nervousness of like going to, like when I was in Thailand, I was the only person I knew in the entire world in Asia. And that's a weird feeling, you know, like there's an entire continent where I don't know a single soul. But especially through doing this job, like you just talk to thousands of people every day. I'm kind of canvassing humanity with all my buddies. Then we talk about it. You definitely get an innate sense where people, when they're acting up, when they're acting bitter or jealous or anything like that, it's more of a temporary emotion. But on the surface, if people have their needs met, you know, they're not starving, they're not, you know, desperate for shelter, like most people are good, and good will come out. And when you talk to 15,000 people, you kind of get that sense. And so you feel confident going to a different part of the world alone and being like, people will take care of me. And I have another crazy story about how I had to get home, actually, that kind of proved that point too. So, let's go into that. So, again, staying on so you're learning about people. Growing up, you read about people, like you're interested in like how people connect and communicate. And so you to this point, you've learned like, hey, like deep down, everybody has a good, like everybody wants the best for the other person, like the majority of people, right? And so you're going with that instinct of like, people are going to take care of me, I'm going to be okay. And so that you had this great experience with, you know, the monks, and now you're saying you're coming back home now? Yeah.
So this was, I was in Thailand for a month, and like the monastery portion was like probably 2 weeks in. And I only went to the monastery, one, because I wanted to, two, because it was a kill two birds with one stone type of thing, because I was running out of money and it was a free place to stay and eat for a few days. So I was trying to budget my time out perfectly. There's this island in southern Thailand right off the east coast called Koh Phangan, where if you go to Southeast Asia, there's this thing called a full moon party, happens once a month when there's a full moon. So it's self-explanatory. But everyone kind of descends on this little island that's only about 3 square miles. Beautiful island, like hikes and stuff like that. I was a little bit low on cash, so I decided to just go lay low, rent a little motorbike, and kind of putt around and do hikes and sit on the beach, free activities until that party. And then after the party, my flight was out of Bangkok to come back to the United States, or to go to Mexico first, and then the United States. And then, you know, I had that flight booked, but I only had about $400 or $500 to my name, and I was waiting on a paycheck. But the paycheck was scheduled and I was supposed to come home. So I'm laying low on this island. I met a couple Dutch dudes. I was hanging out, staying in a hostel for $4 a night. We want to catch the sunset at the top of this mountain. And I was supposed to return my motorbike the next day that I had been renting for 5 days. And they also had my passport as collateral, so I couldn't just leave without returning the bike. So I actually get in a fender bender with a truck of a local dude that stopped short on a turn that I couldn't see. And I barely touch his back bumper, but I scratched a little bit, didn't dent it. Dude hops out. There's a German guy who gets out at the same time, who had been working with the local. And the local starts yelling at me, telling me I need to give him like $500 for this tiny little scratch on a crappy, like 2000 Nissan Frontier, was a POS truck. And I'm arguing, right? Because first of all, I only have $500 to my name. But the German dude pulls me aside, goes, "Listen, man, you know how big this island is?" And I did. I'd been there like a week. It was 3 miles across. You could do the entire thing by motorbike in an hour. And he's like, he grew up on this island. He knows the 10 cops that are on here. If you don't give him the money he's asking for, I can guarantee you he's gonna put you in the jail here, and then they'll just call your parents, and they're gonna get the money from your family either way. So I was like, okay, damn it.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of options here. I don't have any leverage. And so I was basically arguing back and forth, and I told the guy, like, I only have $400 to my name, even my account, because I've blown all my money over the past 3 months in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude goes, okay, we'll see if he'll take that, and he won't like call the cops. And so we go back and forth. Eventually I have to empty my bank account and give it to this guy. So keep in mind, I have no money in my account or anything, and I'm on an island, which is, 60 miles off the main coast. I haven't booked my ferry back to the main coast. I haven't booked my train 12 hours to Bangkok, which is way north. So I have a lot of expenses that are coming up, and I have to pay for the bike I've been renting to get my passport back to even leave. And now I've just damaged the bike too. So I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do? I give him the money. I'm stressing out. Call my mom in a hostel room, sitting there. My mom, bless her heart, single mom. She never had a lot of money. So I call her up. She's like, I'm broke too. I'm calling around. She goes, wait, are you okay? I can ask all my friends for money. And I don't want her to do that. So I just tell her I'm okay. And I hang the phone up. And I remember sitting there in the hostel room like, shit, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then I knew I needed at least like $100 to $200 just for the next day to go pay for my bike and get my passport back, and because I wasn't going anywhere at that point. So I called my buddy who's sitting over there. He's over in Australia at the time, and he gives me a couple $100. So I go there, I pay off the bike. It was $60. I get my passport back. They charge me $30 to repair the front fender. So now I'm down to 110. I go back to the hostel, book my ferry to the mainland for the next day, and my bus to Bangkok for the day after that. So now I'm down to like $40, and I'm hoping that can be like my food. I can hustle for whatever. Well, I basically go to the full moon party that night because it was the whole reason I was on the island. And I tell all the other travelers, all the Europeans and whoever, and so they start buying me shots, whatever. I get hammered. I wake up the next day and I've been pickpocketed the last $40 I have. And my wallet's completely gone, which had my ferry ticket in it that I paid the $50 for.
Oh my
so I'm
God.
like, oh, I'm fucked again.
Is your passport gone too?
No, I left my passport in the hotel room.
Oh, thank
so
God.
it was good. But that was the one thing I wouldn't take out.
Yeah.
But I'm basically like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna call my friend again and ask him for more money. Like, I'm kind of on my own here, and I just kind of decided I was gonna take responsibility for it. And so I go to the front desk and I ask just on a flyer, hey, did my wallet get recovered? And they were like, yes. Are you Johnny Demer? All the money's gone, but there's a ferry ticket in here that's valuable. And I was like, all right, fine.
Oh my God.
Some girl found it on the road and returned it to my hostel because the ferry ticket said my hostel name on it.
Wow.
So I get on the little bus to the ferry, even though I have no money. Meet a dude from Seattle, gives me $7 after he hears my story. We take the ferry to the mainland. Now it's midnight. It's me and two Dutch dudes from my hostel. It's midnight on the mainland. We hop on the bus. By the way, where we are, there's absolutely no town, no train station, no nothing. It's just buses waiting to take us 10 hours to Bangkok. And so we get on the bus and people are sitting in our seats and we're like, not happening. We've had an insane time. We're not letting these dudes take our seats. So we get them up. Everyone's yelling. And then the captain comes over, looks at our tickets and go, you guys have the same seat numbers. What's going on? Like, you can't sit here. And we're like, this is bullshit. And he goes, all right, well, your tickets are booked for last night. These are expired. We're like, that's not possible. We picked them up this morning. He goes, I don't know what to tell you. You can stow away in the coat rack on the bus. And by the way, in Thailand, the bus captains act like they're pilots of 747s. Like, they're total hard asses. And they've got like little stripes on their jackets, like big badges, like they're military bus drivers or something. So they're serious about their jobs. And we're allowed to stow away in the cabin for a few minutes, and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe we're gonna ride in this thing for 10 hours, like cramped up, coats hanging over us, and we're like, at least we're gonna get there though.
Right.
Then the main captain comes up, and we just hear yelling on the other side. He rips open the coat rack, and he looks at us, he goes, you guys have to get the hell off my bus. And we're like, dude, it's 1 a.m. in the middle of nowhere, southern Thailand, what are we gonna do? We don't have cell service, anything to call anybody. He's like, call the hostel. We're like, there's no ferries running tonight, we don't have their number, we're not gonna be able to get back there. He's like, fine, I'll take you for what was $7 American, but in 300 Thai baht. And so basically agrees to take us to a 45 minutes away train station if we pay him. I had to pay him the only $7 that the dude from Seattle gave me. So I don't know how I'm gonna get a train or anything like that. I'm stressing out, and I'm just like, well, I'd rather spend the night stranded at a train station than in the middle of nowhere at least.
Yeah.
So he takes us to this little rickety train station. We don't even know if there's going to be any trains running. We hop off. Luckily, the two Dutch dudes are stranded with me. They buy me a ticket without me even asking because they saw that I was like sweating bullets. We hop on the train. It was a 12-hour ride through the night to Bangkok. We're the only travelers on it. It's like a very local train going through rice paddies in the countryside. Sleep on top of our laptops and our backpacks so we don't get stolen. Show up in Bangkok the next day. I'm completely broke. Haven't eaten in like 24 hours. Don't know what I'm gonna do. I got 2 days until my flight. Don't have money for a hostel. I end up hearing some European dudes say that they need SIM cards for the phone, which is what you need for your phone to have service over in a foreign country. So I had bought one in the airport that I never used like 3 weeks before. So I'm like, yo, I have a SIM card half price. So I get $10 for selling this SIM card that I had never used to these European guys. Find a hostel online that has a free 2-egg and cereal breakfast that I feel like I can sustain myself on. I book it to that hostel, slap enough down for one night. I was 5 minutes late for the free breakfast. And like, they tell me I'm not gonna get any food and I'm just starving. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And like, I tell the lady at the front of my store, she's like, there's nothing I can do. All of a sudden, this other Thai lady on her laptop sitting in the corner starts barking out orders at the kitchen. I can't understand her. She looks at me and she goes, I'm the owner, eat what you want, go back there, tell them what you want. You're gonna stay here for free for 2 days. I'll feed you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I'm like, no, are you kidding me? So I walk back there and it's like not a 2-egg breakfast. Now I'm getting like gourmet, like chicken fried rice, shrimp, anything I want. She's like, come down at 5 o'clock for dinner every night. We'll feed you. Say for tomorrow night, I'll buy you your taxi to the airport for free. So basically this woman took total care of me. Like, she's on my Instagram. I posted a picture of her. She wants me to come back and stay on her ranch for free. And it was like, I just kind of got close with this woman, and that was like how I got home. It was just this insane. I was broke the whole time, and it was pretty crazy.
That is, it's absolutely, I can't, I'm so like, and wow.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
But all those things worked out for you because of, one, your honesty, you know, two, like I said, your heart was in the right place at all times. Like, you weren't intentionally trying to like scam anyone or anything like that. Like, you went out there with a good purpose and a good reason, and it just happened to get, you know, put in these situations that were not ideal, but
way far from ideal.
But the coincidences and things, like, you were able to sell this SIM card. Like, who even care? I don't have a SIM card that I randomly carry, but like, it ended up working out for you. Like, all these small things just like came together for you at the perfect time.
Yeah, you feel like your brain's working differently when your life's on the line.
Yeah.
Stranded in Bangkok, so like things are popping up, but it was awesome.
And people recognize that though too. Like, people, I feel like there's like a sense of genuinity that like comes across, like when you're speaking to people, like, you know, versus the people, like those people that come up to you in the parking lot's like, oh, give me $5 or whatever, like, and I need gas or whatever. Versus, you know, someone that's in your shoes at that time, where, you know, you're not necessarily like going around like looking for money. You're just letting people know what's going on. And,
well, it didn't come to that. I was prepared to do that.
Yeah, you were, but like,
sure. But it was awesome. Then I flew to Mexico and got my paycheck shortly thereafter, and it was like cool from there. But it was a wild few days.
That
definitely.
Is nuts. Yeah. What was the biggest thing that you took away from that whole experience about, like, I guess, people and life and?
Like, I mean, I know enough people where I'm sure I could have bailed and called somebody to give me a little bit of money. Like, of course,
right?
You know. But I just knew that, like, I'm not starving. I'm hungry, but I'm not starving. I'm not, you know, I don't have a place to stay tonight, but it's only noon. You know, I'm several hours away from bowing out and really being on the streets of Bangkok. And I just kept pushing forward, knowing that, like, this is going to be a way better story, a way better memory if I'm able to persevere rather than just cop out. And I think knowing that I had an out was something that was kind of calming for sure.
Right.
But so many people don't look at life that way.
Yeah.
They think, I don't want to have any moment of discomfort. I'd rather take the out right away.
Yeah.
And so people, you know, miss out on that kind of awesome story, that experience where they could have found out a lot about themselves.
Right.
Just by taking the easiest out and hitting the eject button on the situation so fast.
Yeah, that's awesome that you put your, I mean, like I said, you stayed patient, you stayed calm, you were willing to figure it out, and at the end you came out a better man, you know, through it all. Hopefully. Like, you're like, I'm capable of this, I know that, you know, the world's gonna take care of me. That's freaking amazing, Demer. Like, wow. Cool. Absolutely wow. Definitely need to make a movie with you. So we're going to change course just here a little bit. So far, you know, we're speaking about fulfillment. Obviously, you came out of that experience feeling more fulfilled because you got through it yourself. Yeah, like you said, there was an out that you could have taken, but you're like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. And then at the end, it ended up working out perfectly for you. Thank God. Yay. But a little bit before that, so you were saying earlier you were a gym teacher. Where did that? And I'm speaking about this because y'all know I coached for a little bit, and so it's always cool to run into like another coach. What got you into that?
So I just wanted like a diverse work experience. I wasn't actually a gym teacher, as in like hired by the school.
Got it.
It's my junior year of college, and I went to a part-time job fair. and I already worked like restaurant jobs and golf course jobs and done the classic, high school and college age stuff. And there was this company called Champions in Florida that they would hire like, it was kind of like fitness coaches to go into schools twice a week. And it was specifically schools where the obesity level was pretty high amongst the kids. And so I wouldn't be so much a gym teacher as like playing games with them. I would go in and like, I had training cards and I would run them through workouts.
How old were these kids?
These kids were 6th grade.
6th grade.
Sixth or 8th grade. Yeah, so they were all like 12 and 13.
Okay, keep going, because I have questions for you about this.
Right.
Okay.
And so I would go in every Monday and Wednesday the entire day and just take the gym classes from the gym teachers with no experience. I'd have like 80 kids in the gym by myself, and I was 20, 21, which is kind of funny. I was way closer in age to the kids than the gym teachers, but like, they looked at me as like an adult for sure. The same way they look at the gym teachers. It's kind of funny, but I had to do all the classic teacher stuff, like yell and be like, I'll wait. You can run laps and just have cards, and like they didn't like it because I just run them on sprints all day. Like maybe the football players like it. Got my pen. It's gonna stay there. Okay. But it was I kind of had to learn how to command a room of younger people, and like use my authority without getting them to hate me, which is cool. It's a good memory.
These kids, was it? I guess what was their social? Do you know? Like, was it like almost like an inner city thing? Or, okay.
And
I asked that because kids at that age are already a handful, but depending, like, I just feel like in different social standings, some of them are a little bit more willing to, partake, especially in physical activity. There's a lot of kids in these days, my experience these days, there's a lot of children who, even especially teenagers, 6 to 8, who don't want to do physical activity. So get them to even move like a finger takes a lot of work, it
was hugely tough with some of the kids. Obviously the athletes liked it because anything a 12-year-old's good at, if they're in the class with a 12-year-old girl, they want to be the kid who runs the fastest. Because you were the coolest kid in your class if you were the fastest. Didn't matter what else you could do if you were the fast kid. But it was always tough to get them to start at the beginning, and then the biggest thing was getting them to just understand that there were benefits to being active, and sometimes you had to be blunt with them. Like, I would tell kids like, hey, you don't want to be fat when you're 30. You don't want to be that guy. And they'd be like, it would like never occur to them that if they were sedentary and unhealthy for the next 15 years, they'd be overweight. And it was like, yeah, dude, like everybody has an idea of who they want to become, but nobody has like any idea that their work goes into that. And so I got to be the guy who, I guess, introduced a lot of these kids that weren't physically active to the idea of doing that. And it was cool. We took their measurements. We took their box jump. We took their height and weight. We took their 40-yard dash all at the beginning of the semester. And every single kid improved, and very nice. And I thought at first, like, okay, there could be a confounding variable in that study of just they're getting older, kids develop with age, but a lot of them had actually regressed the year prior when the program wasn't implemented. So it was pretty cool to see like these kids that now they were stoked on fitness, not just because gym class and you're just going out there and playing dodgeball. Whereas I had these kids like doing actual workouts, and it was cool. It was rewarding.
Oh heck yeah, yep. Where was that? You said Champions in what state?
This is in Florida.
Florida, got it. Okay.
So if you want Champions, good job. This is in Tallahassee where I went to school.
My experience with coaching was a little bit different. What I learned, because I did coaching like my whole life. When I was a senior in high school, I taught swimming lessons to kids, like little kids from the age of 2 through full adults.
Swimming lessons would be terrifying.
It was a lot of fun. But something the pattern that I picked up on was, I asked about the social status of those kids because when I was in like an inner city environment, they always seemed just a little bit more open-minded, willing to learn. I guess there's like a different appreciation, gratitude for someone when you're coming in there, especially like really like amped up and excited, and you want to like implement new things that if the program already isn't like if the program that they're in isn't that attractive, when you come in with all these new ideas, they usually tend to be a little bit more like, excited, and they want to do things. Whereas if I were to go to a program or a school that was already, had a really good program, becoming of new stuff, they were just kind of like, yeah, we'll try it, but they really weren't that into it. So
yeah, you're totally right. You'll recognize, like, I also did the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and I intentionally was sent to inner city schools because I mean, when you have a poor surrounding area, and in a large part, especially in Florida, property taxes fund the education and the schools. I grew up in a really wealthy area, even though I wasn't wealthy. I went to school with rich kids. The teachers were well paid, and when a teacher's well paid, they're going to be more motivated. You're going to recruit a different crop of people. More talented people filter into the higher paying jobs. So when you go to a school where the teachers are lower paid, they're typically less motivated, less educated.
Right.
They're not getting the jobs at the higher paying schools, which is, unfortunately, it's the reality of the situation. I'm not saying teachers aren't good people, but a lot of times in the inner city, these kids aren't exposed to as much passion, as much education in terms of their teachers. So when I went in there, just like you're talking about, they were really receptive to someone who had that kind of energy that they're not totally exposed to all the time. Yeah, it's novel. It is, and it's super rewarding if you ever like.
You say it's fulfilling.
It's fulfilling, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It definitely was, and my favorite part when I was teaching and coaching, and until this day, like. I have a passion for it. Like that's it's always so rewarding, fulfilling, if you would say, to be able to like teach these kids something or introduce them or give them an experience that they haven't had before, and then watch them just like run with the wind with it. Like not only like grasp it, and just like when they complete a task, like
so cool.
It's the best feeling ever. Like the best feeling. There's been a few people that have like reached out to me within North Star, and they're like, I guess they watch me through GroupMe or whatever, and they'll say like, oh, like I love watching your enthusiasm through GroupMe, and I tell them, I said, I think it's the coach that lives in me. Like if you knew me as a coach, and you
can
knew
see her being a coach for sure.
You knew me like during the games, like. During games, for the most part, like practices too, but like games specifically, like I'm the coach that's like on my knees, like when a play doesn't go right, I'm like, oh my god, or like it's an intense situation, like you were literally see me just like, like I'm all over the place, and I'm just like bracing myself, and like I'm like, but like I'm not just like sitting casually in a chair or standing cool by the sideline, like I'm literally like, let's go, get down,
Well, that's the biggest thing. It's like, that's why you probably were awesome at it, is because like the kids want to know that what is literally the most important, speaking as who was a 12-year-old boy, like if you're watching a football game or something, that is the most important thing in those kids' lives for that year. And it's like if their teachers are just kind of like, whatever. Then it's like, dude, it's lame. It's like when your teachers can get into it, it hypes them up, makes it feel more real to them. Like when you're that age, you feel like you're like, if you played a sport, like what sports did you play?
Oh god, I played all the sports. So there was not a sport I didn't play.
Like soccer?
I played soccer.
You feel like you're in the World Cup if you're in the championship and you're 11. Like it feels so real.
It does.
And then once you get to like high school, you're kind of like, oh, this is not making money for this. But like if the teachers can get into it, it makes it so much more cool, and they love that. Yeah. And it like improves the experience of everybody. And
for sure.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool that you got to have that experience, Johnny. I love that we have that in common.
We just found that out 15 minutes ago.
And he waited to share it with you guys, which I think is super awesome. Heck yeah. But all right, Johnny, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up because like I say that I tell them all the time, y'all are extremely busy men with big goals, and I want to make sure that y'all are able to hit those. But give me, I know you're a big reader. Like he's the guy that asked me what book I was reading, like I said earlier. So I just want to get a few more. You've already given me some, but just maybe to them. What are your top 3 book recommendations for people to read? I do get that asked a lot, like, hey, sir, what are you reading? So I think, it's another reader.
Okay. Last couple of years, I'll try to give different categories.
Okay, that'd be great.
So the best book I've read in terms of like if you want to be motivated entrepreneurially and just in terms of business, and also get a really cool memoir of one of the biggest business founders in the world, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. He's the founder of Nike. It's an 18-year memoir from the time he had the idea to create a shoe company to the time they overtook Adidas in the early 80s as the biggest shoemaker in the entire world. And the book starts out of him like getting the idea when he was just graduated from Oregon, which is, if you ever watch football, that's why Oregon has all the cool uniforms. They switch all the time because Phil Knight, founder of Nike, went there. But he literally backpacks the entire world looking for inspiration for the first like 80 pages of the book, and then it's his hustle to make the company successful for the next like 300 pages. So it's awesome. Spirituality, I just finished it a couple nights ago. It's the best. It's called God, A Human History. Author is Reza Aslan, R-E-Z-A, Aslan, like the lion in Narnia. Yeah. So that's actually like an ancient name for sort of divine king. That's why that Aslan is named that. It's all about basically the religious impulse in early humans, and it like tries to trace where that originated from, like Neanderthals and Australopithecus and Homo sapiens sapien. Talks about the first origin of the idea that the body was separate from spirit, and then kind of how that developed into complex monotheism from paganism, from polytheism. It's really interesting, and you'll have like a super complete view of where Islam and Judaism and Christianity came from. So that's awesome. And then my favorite book probably of all time, which is just sort of like a really like hilarious, satirical, intelligent write-up of, I guess, the human condition, and it is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it's, if you've ever read that, it's super funny, it's super page-turner, but it's definitely like, it's that classic dry British kind of witty humor, and it's amazing. But you'll feel, even though it's obviously not like pure like dense scientific, you'll feel smart reading it. Yeah. And it's like it's
we
a
all
perfect,
need those books. Those are good books.
It's a perfect funny write up on like the human condition. So it's hilarious.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing those with us,
Sure.
Demer. I love that you have those 3 categories because, like I said, this guy is like just like he's like a sponge. He goes out to the world, just really wants to gain as much as he can from every experience. So you were able to pick 3 different categories easily because you have that type of mentality. So yay, thank you. Alrighty, Demer, we are gonna finish with Giveaway Monday. You guys know what day it is. I had Demer put in 5 names of his own, and I put in 5 names, and I'm actually gonna let him do the drawing today. So I'm excited to see who gets our Giveaway Monday today. Go ahead, Demer, just one. Yeah.
Okay. This one right
Whichever
here.
one you want. Let's go ahead and open that baby up. See who it is.
Oh,
what do we got?
Ellie Lover.
Ellie Lover. Tell us about Ellie Lover.
I put you in there. I put you in there because Ellie, she's my cousin. She lives down in Jacksonville, Florida. She was texting me the other day like, "Oh, I miss you," and I was like, "She should get a little Amazon gift card from this podcast."
Yay.
So yeah, so you're gonna get 10.
Cool
I'll throw in $10 too. So you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card.
Yay! Congratulations, Ellie. I'm so happy it was you. I'm gonna leave this out. Thank you. Yay.
Sure.
You go, Ellie. You rock. But all right, guys, that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much, Demer, for sitting down with me. You were amazing. I hope you guys were able to take something away from today's diary entry. Let's go out there and live life with an adventure and just seek to like grow from everyone that we encounter and just have, just do our best to be the light in other people's lives, and everything will be okay, no matter what situation you're in. Good. Right?
Yeah,
Heck yeah, you gotta have that faith. All right, guys, have a great week. I look forward to catching up with y'all on Friday. Continue to be the light in your lives and everyone else's you surround yourselves with. We'll see y'all soon. Bye, guys.